Scotland's canals. Once the arteries for moving goods, people and raw materials. However, with the rise of the railway system, all that changed, and many canals became abandoned and neglected. Let's discover this important part of Scotland's history. The journey to learn more about Scotland's canals starts here at the Kelpies. This is on the outskirts of Falkirk and it's located near the coast. These two horse heads are such an iconic landmark in Scotland, and last night they were all lit up. There is a canal here and there's quite a few canal boats in the area as well. The Kelpies are a pair of 30-metre high steel sculptures which were designed by Scottish artist Andy Scott. In mythology, Kelpies are shape-shifting water spirits, said to haunt Scotland's lochs and rivers, often taking the form of horses. However, the sculptures symbolise the vital role of heavy horses, like Clydesdales and Shires in Scotland's industrial past. Completed in 2013, the Kelpies weigh 300 tonnes each and have become a major tourist attraction. This is my first time here at the Kelpies, and although I've seen pictures of them before, they're so much bigger than I expected and they're so impressive. If you're passing this area, you should definitely stop and come and see them. The Kelpies are located at the eastern side of the Forth and Clyde Canal, Scotland's first canal. It opened in 1790 and connected the west coast with the east coast and enabled ships to avoid the hazardous journey around Scotland's northern coastline. More canals were built to improve transportation and facilitate trade. They became crucial for moving goods, people and raw materials before the advent of railways. When I was reading about the canals in Falkirk, I read that the canals were used to transport whisky back in the day, as well as many other types of goods. And Rosebank Distillery actually is located beside the canal, and whisky was often transported from this distillery via the canal network. This distillery was reopened recently. It was closed for a very long time, so I'm not sure if they have any whisky ready, but it looks really modern and really nice from the outside, so let's go in and have a quick look. Rosebank Distillery is a historic lowland whisky producer renowned for its light, floral and fruity single malts. Established in 1840, it thrived during the 19th and 20th centuries, benefiting from its position near the Forth and Clyde Canal, which provided efficient transport for its whisky. After closing in 1993, the distillery was dormant for nearly 30 years, until Ian MacLeod Distillers acquired and restored it. Production resumed in 2023, with the distillery officially reopening to visitors in 2024. Rosebank continues its tradition of triple distillation and non-peated whiskies. I've just come inside and the entrance is so impressive. So here are the tours. So you can do a tour for 90 minutes for £25. That's the basic distillery tour that they have here. So behind me is the canal, and this is where they used to load the whisky onto boats to transport it. There's no whisky available inside the distillery to try. It's still under maturation. There are bottles from a long time ago when they did make whisky, but they are quite expensive. They were most of them over £1,000 for a bottle. So it's quite an old whisky that's available to purchase inside. But the distillery is lovely, very modern, and it'll be nice to try the whisky when it's finally available. Inside the distillery, they do have the new make spirit. So that's what the whisky is before it's put into the cask. So it looks clear, a bit like vodka or gin, and then that's put into the cask, and then it spends a minimum of 3 years in there to mature into whisky. So they have some of that available to try, but I prefer to have whisky rather than new make spirit. Before I head to the next location, I'd like to quickly talk about today's video sponsor, Incogni. You've probably heard of online databases and people search sites that collect and hold your private information. These sites can publish your information, including your name, address, email address, login credentials, telephone number, and even your vehicle registration plate. It's really scary that this happens, and it can expose you to a wide range of dangers, including stalking, online harassment, identity theft, and scams. The good news is that you have the right to protect your privacy and request these data brokers to remove your information from their databases. However, this can take years to do it manually, and you'd have to repeat the process again and again to make sure you don't end up back on these lists. This is where Incognito comes in. Incognito is a service that you give permission to, and they get you removed from these lists. They reach out to data brokers on your behalf, and they follow up to make sure you actually got removed from these lists. As you can see on my dashboard, they have sent 46 requests for me, 10 are in progress, and 36 have already been completed. With their yearly subscription, Incognito are constantly monitoring for you and making sure you don't end up back on these lists. If you'd like to take control of your personal data with Incognito, they are offering a huge 60% off their annual plan. All you need to do is go to incognito.com/Ruth Ashling and use the code Ruth Ashling at checkout. You'll also find the link in the video description below, or you can scan the QR code on the screen. Now let's head to the next location. In 1822, the Union Canal opened. This linked Edinburgh to the Forth and Clyde Canal, providing an inland connection to Glasgow. It was designed for lighter and smaller boats, and was primarily used for passenger and agricultural transport. The longest canal tunnel to be built in Scotland is on the Union Canal, and it'll be my next stop. I've parked Ernie Boy up in the distance there in this free car park, and a short walk from here is a tunnel that is used as part of the canal network. This tunnel dates back to the 1820s, and it's said to be an eerie and spooky tunnel. I'm really looking forward to see it. I don't know why, I quite enjoy going to spooky places recently, but it's just down here. Let's see what this will be like. Just here at the canal, it mentions that Edinburgh is 31.5 miles from here. There is the tunnel in the distance. It is about a 30-second walk from that car park. Wow, it looks quite dark and spooky. I have made it to the start of the tunnel. So this is called the Falkirk Tunnel, and it's 630 metres long. On Google reviews, it does say that it's quite scary and eerie inside, and not to go in if you're a scaredy cat, but it actually looks really exciting and really old. I'm so excited to go inside the tunnel. Let's go. Okay, I've made it inside the tunnel. Wow, there's a lot of water dripping down from the top of the tunnel. Being in the tunnel feels like being inside a cave. It's quite dark, and there's a lot of those stalactites or stalagmites on the roof of the tunnel. The canals were built using manual labour in tough conditions, with workers using simple tools like picks, shovels and wheelbarrows. Stone and brick were meticulously laid to line the canals, ensuring their durability and stability. The Falkirk Tunnel was built between 1818 and 1822 and designed by civil engineer Hugh Baird. To build it, rock was blasted with gunpowder, which was a dangerous and time-consuming task, particularly given the lack of advanced machinery. The tunnel was built to accommodate the narrow boats of the time, with a towpath for horses that pulled the boats. Horses were vital to the canal system, capable of hauling up to 50 times their own weight on the boats, much more than they could manage on land. The tunnel actually reminds me of Sonny Bean's cave, so I hope there's no cannibals in here. I'm about halfway through the tunnel, and now the tunnel is made of bricks, whereas in the middle it was a lot of rock. I've made it to the end of the tunnel. Wow. What an amazing experience. I loved walking through there. It took around 10-15 minutes to walk the whole way through, but I did stop a few times to take some pictures. My next stop was the Falkirk Wheel, the point where the Forth and Clyde Canal connects to the Union Canal. Before I go on the Falkirk Wheel, I have some time to kill, and I've come down to the canal here, and there's lots of canal boats, and it looks like people are renting them, so you can rent one and then have a holiday on the canal and actually drive the boat, which is really exciting. I wonder how much it costs. That must be the gas for the campervans. And then down here they have the electric sockets and also the taps for the canal boats. I was just speaking to the guy that works here, and he said that these are all available to rent, and I think he said there's 19 of them available to rent, and people usually rent them for a week and then head off and they can go to Glasgow. So they can go straight on this canal, go to Glasgow, or they can go to Edinburgh. So you go up on the Falkirk Wheel and over to Edinburgh, and that takes around 3 days, and then you have 3 days to come back, so it's about a week. He said the cost is around £2,500 to rent one of the canal boats for a week. I asked if it's possible to do it alone, but he said it's better to have two people, so you have someone at the front and someone at the back, and he offered to come with me if I wanted to rent one. A lot of the canal boats are the thin ones. I'm probably using the incorrect terminology, but this here is the wide beam boat. And if any of you watched that video, last year I rented a wide beam boat like this in Glasgow in a place called Spears Wharf. It's an Airbnb, and I stayed there for 2 nights. As you can see, it's about double the width of the smaller canal boat here. After I stayed in the canal boat in Glasgow, I actually researched how much would it cost to buy a canal boat, because they are going to be cheaper than staying in a house, and I found out that they cost around £100,000 to £150,000 to buy maybe quite a new one, but you can obviously get second-hand ones, but they might require more maintenance over time because they're in the water. They obviously face the risk of rust. So fascinating, boat life, very interesting. If anyone is wanting to rent a canal boat, here's the information. There's 3 different companies that offer boats here to rent at the Falkirk Wheel. As I was waiting, a couple who had rented a canal boat for a week were setting off on their holiday. I watched them go through a lock in the canal. They then went into the Falkirk Wheel to travel to Edinburgh via the Union Canal. I have made it to the Falkirk Wheel, the only rotating boat lift in the world, and it is so much bigger than I expected. There's lots of people here. I have booked on to go on a trip in the Falkirk Wheel. So you can come here and have a look at the Falkirk Wheel and watch it. But there's also the option to take a boat trip to go inside it and experience the journey up to the top where it joins the other canal. In the distance, the boat is preparing to leave, and my ticket cost £17.50. There wasn't actually that much availability. It seems like a really busy and popular experience for people to do. I better get over there now and join the queue before the boat leaves. I'm really excited to experience the Falkirk Wheel. It looks really fun. In front of me here is the Falkirk Wheel, and all these people are queuing up to go on a trip in the Falkirk Wheel, so I'm going to join them now. The Falkirk Wheel opened in 2002 and is the world's only rotating boat lift. It connects the Forth and Clyde Canal with the Union Canal. These 2 canals were previously linked by a series of 11 locks, which had fallen into disrepair and were replaced by the Falkirk Wheel as part of the Millennium Link project to restore the country's inland waterways. The Falkirk Wheel has 2 gondolas that hold boats and water. When it rotates, the gondolas stay level due to Archimedes' principle, making the lift highly efficient as gravity does most of the work. It takes only about 5 minutes to complete a full rotation and uses very little energy, the equivalent of boiling 8 kettles of water. It raises and lowers boats between the 2 canals, a height difference of 24 metres. From the Union Canal, boats still need to pass through an additional lock to navigate the full height difference of 35 metres. The lift weighs about 1,800 tonnes and was built to last for at least 120 years. The Falkirk Wheel has become a symbol of Scotland's industrial and engineering heritage, and the boat trips on the wheel take around 50 minutes. You rise on the Falkirk Wheel to join the Union Canal, go through a tunnel, then turn around and come back down again on the Falkirk Wheel. Now that I've finished the trip on the boat, I've come up here to have a look at the top of the Falkirk Wheel to see the actual place that we came through. It's so interesting. Here's the top of the Falkirk Wheel. This is where we came in the boat. The decline of canals in Scotland began in the mid-19th century with the rise of the railway system, which offered faster and more efficient transport. Many canals fell into disrepair, with some sections abandoned and neglected. However, in the late 20th century, restoration efforts began. Today, Scotland's canals are used for leisure boating and tourism. People also enjoy walking, cycling and other activities along their towpaths. The canals support local wildlife with ducks, swans and other birds often seen along the banks. I'm back from taking the boat trip on the Falkirk Wheel and it was really great actually. I'm glad I did it. I think you can probably get more of a sense of how it works if you just stand at the bottom and watch, but it is quite interesting to also go inside. But the boat was so full of people that it's quite hard to see out the windows, especially if you're not in a window seat. You can't really see what's going on, but the voiceover and the information is very useful and it was quite interesting to do the trip. So overall, I'm glad that I did it. If you come with your campervan, you can stay at the Falkirk Wheel. It costs £15 per night, and then they have some facilities here like showers, toilets, a laundry, and also an area for dumping your toilet waste as well. You need to give a £20 deposit for a key, and then you get that back when you return the key. But this is really great. I'm going to stay here at the Falkirk Wheel tonight. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.